Hey everyone, Thyworm here with a new strategy on farming div cards and stacked decks for solo self-found. 4400 stacked decks, that's what I got. I will be opening everything I farmed as well at the end. Let's dive in. Stacked decks in solo self-found, they're pretty much just gambling. There's not much else to it, but I saw a video of Empyrian where he tried a based or cringe episode and that inspired me to try something similar, but then in SSF. I didn't focus on profit like he does, but instead on SSF viability and usefulness. In trade, you would just sell 4400 stacked decks. I would, at least. In SSF, however, I decided to open them myself for science and for content. Which makes you wonder, how the hell am I getting 4400 stacked decks in SSF? Well, I already had around 1300 from just playing the game for the last 2 months or so there's that. But I also farmed over 3000 using the following strategy. Let's talk about prerequisites, which primarily cover the Scarabs and the betrayal setup. What you need are divination Scarabs of the cloister, lots of them. I had over 300, and ideally to complement this strategy you need a syndicate or betrayal setup where you have Cravicius in transportation so you can keep farming him at the same time. That is completely optional, however. There is no node to farm these divination cards, but they are fairly common. I tend to block a lot of mechanics in the Atlas, which also blocks those Scarabs, so as a result other Scarabs, like the divination Scarabs, drop way more often. Plus, I tend to run strong boxes, and those contain many Scarabs as well. That is how I got over 300 of them. Here's how the strategy works. We're combining a few things here. First, we're using 5 divination Scarabs of the cloister, which puts between 40 to 60 packs of Doedries devoted into the map. Each monster in that pack has an additional 1% chance to drop a stacked deck. I don't know if there is additional scaling with quantity and rarity. Pack size should scale, however. Now that we have all these monsters in there, we need to scale their rewards. We do this by scaling pack size, as already mentioned, that is one. The second way to scale a mechanic like this is by reviving the monsters and kill them again, which you can do using Ritual. And they do in fact drop their stacked decks again after they respawn and you kill them. And as Ritual also keeps some monsters in the spawn pool, you keep reviving them in each subsequent Ritual, allowing for plenty of additional stacked decks. As a bonus synergy, because you're putting so many monsters in the map, you get tons of Ritual tribute. Plus, you might find something good in or around the Ritual, like this Omen of Connections. A slight downside here is that part of the Doedries devoted monster pool there are totems, and for some reason they tend to spawn on the edges of the Ritual, so I often found myself scouring the Ritual area for that last totem. The last way to scale the stacked decks is by realizing these are a form of basic currency. They are not in fact a form of divination cards, which you might expect. Them being a basic currency means that Eldritch Altars can duplicate them. If you roll the player mod, which has the chance to duplicate basic currency, your stacked decks will also duplicate. Because of this, I am running this strategy in Jungle Valley, because there I am only getting player and monster altar mods and the boss doesn't spawn until you hit the boss arena, meaning that the boss altar options don't spawn either. Lookout has a similar thing going on. There are other maps you can min-max for this strategy, but I found this to work very well already in Jungle Valley. As a bonus synergy, I have incorporated Betrayal and Cravicius farming, which fairly often results in you running the safe house to reap a few more div cards. This way, I got a decent number of rare uniques, such as Beano's kitchen knife, for which I'm making an SSF build review as we speak. I'm still pondering to make a guide on how to set up this betrayal strategy, which isn't all that easy to do, but it is also outside the scope of this video. Ultimately, I ran 60 maps with this strategy and I farmed just over 3000 stacked decks, so that's on average 50 stacked decks per map. And that's only in corrupted rare tier 16 maps, some were 5 mod maps and some were 8 mod maps. Small self-plug, check the description for Google Docs on all my SSF stuff, account name, POBs, Atlas trees, etc. There's a Discord link in there as well. I have a guild, ThyGuild, feel free to join in-game. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Okay, back to the video. For Scarabs, we already covered it. 5 divination scarabs of the cloister. For the map crafting option, I'm using ritual, so I can save some points on the atlas tree for other stuff. Let's talk about the atlas passive tree and the choices I made. All the betrayal nodes here are optional, but I feel it synergizes well with stacked decks and div cards, so I am taking all the standard nodes here. The one node I am not taking is intelligence gathering, because I feel that messes up the syndicate too much and I want to control the flow of who spawns where. I'm blocking all nodes except ritual because there's no need for other mechanics. I'm taking quite some ritual nodes, which is optional again, but as we are playing this we might as well optimize our ritual rewards. The one mandatory node you do need is occult devotion, because you need to spawn 4 rituals, but other than that I also took several nodes to make ritual more efficient, plus the fun node called sacrificial dew, which occasionally spawns a blood-filled vessel. I might use those for another video at some point, who knows. I'm taking a few shrine nodes to buff my character. Betrayal can be fairly rippy on a bad build in tier 16, plus it adds movement speed too from time to time. And finally, Searing Exarch, my favorite Eldritch altars, because they provide so much currency. I'm also juicing the maps quite a bit with all the explicit map modifier buffs, but that's optional as well. It gives more loot, but it also makes the maps a lot harder. Regarding the item quantity wheel in the middle, I don't think it works on the stacked decks, but as these are pretty juicy maps, I think it's good to have some extra quantity nonetheless. Let's go over the results of 60 maps and 300 scarabs. At first, I had a lot of opening stacked decks to do, which took a while. You really should only open these in a location like beach, because if you crash, which actually happened to me, the instance typically survives. If you open these things in the menagerie and you crash, the instance is gone, because I'm pretty sure PoE opens a new instance of the menagerie every time you go there. I found this out the hard way, unfortunately. I didn't lose any high profile cards, that's the good side. Then it is time to turn in all the divination cards. These results are a little skewed because I already had several divination cards and I didn't want to split them all for an experiment or buy an extra tab or whatnot. So I am showing here only the completed sets. On the flip side, I'm not showing good individual cards that didn't complete a set, so I think it pretty much evens out. Furthermore, these results are there to give you an indication of the loot. There's definitely not enough data for any conclusive statements, and besides that, that's also really not the point. There are many other sources available for that if you're interested. Consider this just a rough estimation of what you can expect and see if that is worth it to you. With that out of the way, here's a combined overview of the loot that I got from stacked decks, some notable ritual loot and Gravicious' loot. The vast majority of the currency you see is from stacked decks, because there are plenty of divination cards which give currency. All the Venter's Gambles, same thing, they're from div cards. I got a bunch of Vivid jewels from div cards, which I like in SSF. Just add affixes to them, corrupt them, and you might end up with some great solo self-found jewels. There are a few notable uniques, such as Mjolnir, Arakaali's Fang, and the Fourth Vow, just to name a few. From Ritual and from div cards you will find plenty of decent skill gems. I found a naval officer in the Ritual. I got 8 blood vessels, which is very close to the expected value there of 15%. 15% of 60 is roughly 8, so that checks out. I got plenty of decent jewels, both fractured from Ritual and a bunch of others from div cards again, including an Inspired Learning. That is my third at this point. Ritual next to that offers sometimes the Nameless Shrines, which have invitations to the king, and as you can see I found 10 of those in 60 maps, or in 240 rituals. That's not too bad. Next to that I got plenty of omens, including 2 connection omens. Ritual offers div cards as well, which I've collected over there, and ultimately Gravicious got me around 6 full sets of decent div cards in the top right corner. I hope you tried this strategy, let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions. Subscribe and like for more PoE SSF guides. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all, see you soon, bye bye.